everyone, welcome back to my channel. For anyone that's new here, my name's Claire and this is Joli, a very sleepy Joli. And today we're going to be going through everything you need to know about Epipremnum Aureum plants, also known as Pothos, Devil's Ivy, Hunter's Robe, Devil's Vine. They're known by many names. They're known as Devil's Ivy because they tend to be really hard to kill. A bit like common ivy, it can be really invasive and damaging if it's found growing in the wild, simply because it grows so quickly and literally grabs onto anything it can to climb. But because they're so hard to kill, it makes them a really good starter plant. In this video, I'm going to go through everything you need to know in terms of basic care needs, to tips and tricks to make your plant grow faster and fuller, and also look at propagation. Firstly, if you're enjoying my videos so far, please make sure to subscribe to my channel with the notification bell turned on so you'll be the first to know when I post new videos. So, this is Rita. She's a golden pothos plant that I originally grew from just one cutting. She's not looking quite so full at the moment, but mainly just because I've cut her back so much recently to propagate her. But she is such a fast grower. I've also got Eddie, who's a little baby version and is currently listed in my shop. I've just noticed the variegation on this leaf. How beautiful is that? Just so that you can see how quickly they grow, I will insert a picture of Rita from about 7 months ago. So yeah, that compared to now. Oh, I mean, yeah, she's pretty fast growing. She's popped out new leaves almost every week since then. She's also got this little half moon leaf, which is so pretty. There are quite a few types of pothos plant, the most common being golden pothos, marble queen pothos, pearls and jade pothos, and the neon pothos. Pothos. I've also got a little baby satin pothos here. It's a cutting I recently planted up, but as you can tell, the texture of the leaves is quite different to the others. It's actually a Scindapsus, but its care needs are pretty much the same as the others. These plants tend to do best in medium to bright indirect lighting, but they're also known for being really great in lower lighting conditions too. When I say low light, obviously all plants need at least some natural light to grow, but it just means if you've got your pothos in a shady spot or quite far back from a window, then its health won't be affected in the same way that some other houseplants would. Unlike a lot of other plants, their variegation doesn't actually tend to fade that much if they're not in a bright spot, and on the whole they'll stay really green and healthy looking. I've currently got Rita, my long one, hanging in a north-facing window. Oh my god. I don't know if you've noticed, I have this thing that has come up in most of the videos I've ever filmed where I say north-facing, south-facing, east-facing window, and when I come to say window, I can't get it out. They're next to an east-facing facing onwards. So I have Rita in a north-facing window, and she hasn't given me any grief. She's really happy there. They'll obviously grow slightly faster if you have them in higher light conditions, but they should never be kept in direct sunlight because it's just too much for them and their leaves will eventually burn. Unless you're training your plants to climb towards the light, then it's really important to turn it on a regular basis just so that it can absorb even amounts of light from all angles. They do grow towards the light really quickly, so if you want full, even growth, just make sure you're rotating it every few weeks or so. Water-wise, the guideline watering is every kind of week to 2 weeks, but I just always tend to go off how she looks. Her vines will start to droop and her leaves will start to curl every so often, and that's usually their way of telling you that they're ready for a really good drink. You can see here how her leaves are ever so slightly curled and kind of a bit wilted. That's because I haven't given her a water in about a week and a half or so. So yeah, I'll give her a good drink in the next few days. What was that? To be on the safe side, always check the soil before you water. If it feels quite dry and the pot feels quite light, then it probably is ready for a water. But if you're getting this drooping and curling leaves and the soil's still wet, then chances are you have overwatered. It's important to deal with this right away if that is the case, because otherwise it could be fatal to your plant. I've spoken more about overwatering and root rot and ways that you can treat this in another video, so I will link that above. But as I've said before, underwatering is always better than overwatering. These plants originate from French Polynesia, so in that tropical climate, they can sometimes go weeks on end without rain and they still survive. They're really adaptable, hardy plants. Every few weeks during the growing season, I'll just mix in some natural diluted fertiliser with my water. This just helps to keep them healthy, happy, and actually speeds up their growth. I'll link the fertiliser that I use down below. As I say, these plants are really hard to kill and often thrive on neglect. So if you don't fertilise very often or forget to fertilise, it doesn't matter so much with these ones. On the flip side, too much fertiliser can actually send them into shock and cause something called fertiliser burn, which usually looks like dry or dark patches on the leaves. So again, less is more with these ones. If you have over-fertilised, then the best thing you can do is just give the soil a bit of a rinse out the next time you water. Thoroughly soak it through until it pours out of the bottom of the pot and then just leave it to really properly drain. This just helps to clear any salt or mineral buildup or anything that might be preventing your plant from absorbing the nutrients and water that it needs. To do this, I'll usually use either filtered water or rainwater just because it's the purest and doesn't contain any of the nasty, harsh chemicals that are usually found in tap water. These plants don't actually require a huge amount of humidity. A lot of other houseplants will really suffer if the humidity levels are low, but these ones don't seem to mind too much. I always try to keep the humidity levels in my house at around 65%, but I have had Rita next to a radiator before and she hasn't seemed to mind. So I'd advise anything above about 40% humidity, which is pretty standard for most homes. I do mist my pothos plants regularly, but this is mainly just to make sure that their leaves stay clean and pest-free. I'll also dust my plants' leaves regularly, usually every time I water, and just give them a wipe over with a damp sponge. This again helps to prevent pests, but it also just means that they're dust-free and able to absorb light more effectively. Again, these plants are really adaptable when it comes to temperature. It's recommended to keep a steady temperature of about 15 to 29 degrees Celsius, but if it does go slightly higher or lower, they probably won't mind too much. Something to just be mindful of, and I say this with all plants, is that whenever you bring a new one into your home, just try not to fuss over it too much at first. Unless they're seriously dry, don't go crazy with watering them, and definitely don't repot them right away because this can just send them into shock. I hear about that happening so much. Hi girl, hello. Oh, ow. Watch the plants up there, oh my god. Okay, we're moving the plants. I think what I was going to say was that basically your home is a completely different environment from what they've been used to, so just give them a bit of space and allow them to adjust. Pothos plants are also really easy to propagate. I showed you this one in another video, but this one is one that I started at the beginning of lockdown, so a few months ago, and it's just gone absolutely crazy. I should have actually potted this one up a while ago, but I've kind of left it too long. It seems happy in water, so I think for now I'm just going to leave it like that. There's quite a few ways that you can propagate these plants, but the fastest and, in my opinion, most effective method is water. Just literally sticking a cutting in water. Make sure you use a clean, sterile pair of scissors, and you're going to want to cut just above one of the nodes, which are these little bumps here, because that's where your growth will spring from. So if I was going to propagate this section, I'd want to cut it just there. I always add a few drops of rooting solution to the water just because it speeds up the process slightly. But to be honest, for these ones, they're so easy to propagate, it's really not that necessary. So yeah, just pop your cutting into water and leave it be. I always tend to do half water changes when I propagate instead of changing the whole lot, just to keep the water clean and fresh, but also just making sure that the plant's new roots aren't thrown into a state of shock with brand new water each time. Once the roots have grown to a few inches long, you can go ahead and pot it up. If you're wanting to create a whole new plant and not just a whole new vine like this one, then it's best to take multiple cuttings and propagate them all and then plant them all together in the same pot. If your plant isn't looking as full and bushy as you want it to, then a really easy way to fix this is just by taking sections of the vine and without cutting it, just planting the nodes back into the soil. I'll usually use a hairpin or something just to secure it and hold it in place while it roots. Doing this is essentially soil propagation, but without having to cut any of your existing plants. It just provides new growth points for your plant and means that it won't look so stretched and leggy. And that's pretty much the gist of it. If you're having issues with your plant, then feel free to check out my houseplant problems video because most of the common problems with pothos plants are covered in that. If anyone's got any questions, then feel free to let me know in the comments below and I will do my best to help. If you found this video useful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, make sure you're following us on social media, Instagram @TheJungleHaven, Facebook The Jungle Haven. Have a great week, everyone, and stay tuned for more weekly plant videos.